KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
All clear on your Valley freeways. No accidents, no delays. We do have a right lane blocked in Weber Canyon, eastbound I-84, as crews work to replace the barrier by the power plant. Stay in that left lane, and delays are possible. This is the place, Heritage Park, your family place for summer fun. Celebrate Utah history all month with tons of patriotic activities, food, concerts, shops, and more. Visit thisistheplace.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Key air quality this afternoon, 93 for the high. Tomorrow, 99. Right now, sunny and 86 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the headlines often shout how important it is that we have people who will speak truth to power. Well, in American political history, few stories are as compelling that have this intersection of speaking truth to power, faith and power, than the Watergate scandal. The tale of Richard Nixon's downfall, of course, is not just a political narrative, but there's also a spiritual component to it as well. The interaction with ministers and clergy played pivotal roles. And so it's time to think again about what we think we know, not just about what happened to Richard Nixon, but how it actually applies to the rest of us here today. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, last week I read a piece that I just kept reading, and then I reread it and read it again. And we're really thrilled to have joining us on the program today Daniel Silliman, news editor for Christianity Today. And we're going to introduce you to someone you may not know, a name far less familiar when it comes to the Watergate scandal, but maybe one of the best examples of that intersection of church and state, but really of faith and courage and character in speaking truth to power. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Beautiful piece, profoundly written, and introduce us to John Huffman and why he is someone of moral courage that maybe we got to think again about what we think we know when it comes to speaking truth to power.
Yeah, John Huffman was a little-known pastor, young guy, very regular church, evangelical Presbyterian in Key Biscayne, Florida in the 1960s and 70s. And it just so happened that Richard Nixon attended his church, not regularly, of course, but when he was on vacation once or twice a year, maybe for Easter, Nixon would get out of the White House and go to Florida, spend time with his friend, the banker Baby Rebozo, and they would go to this church. And then, you know, when Nixon's presidency got caught up in scandal as he's like covering up the break-in to the Democratic Party headquarters by some men who wanted to give him an unfair advantage in the election, there's minister after minister who comes into Nixon's life. There were lots of ministers in the White House, and each of them kind of shy away in different ways from saying a hard thing. And the exception is Huffman. And I researched this, writing a religious biography of Richard Nixon that's coming out next week called One Lost Soul. And I just found all these people who shy away from saying the hard thing, who are too flattered to be in Nixon's presence. But then there's this young guy, just early 30s, who, when he has a moment, has the courage to say, Mr. President, you need to confess. You need to tell what you need to know. This isn't right, what you're doing.
Yeah, and such an amazing thing. I think so few people understand all the things that were going on. And there really was kind of this regular cycle of clergy and ministers going in and out of the White House, praying with the president, advising the president, and yet none of them were really willing to do that hard thing. So what was it? About John Huffman that made him a little different? Because as you said, he was young, kind of nondescript, but yet he was willing to do the hard thing.
Yeah, there's no insult to John Huffman, but there's nothing sort of obvious about why it should be him. He's not the most famous pastor. He's not the best preacher. He's not the best educated. He's just kind of a faithful, everyday guy. But there were a couple of things, and I was able to track him down. He's still alive. He's a faithful churchgoer in Southern California, and I was able to interview him for this piece. He was a little surprised because it's been 50 years, but he said he'd try and answer my questions. But yeah, there were a couple things. One, his father was in ministry, and he saw his father raise money for a seminary, and saw him sort of treat powerful people and famous people as normal, right? As not having any kind of special power. And, you need to be respectful, but you don't kowtow. And he told me, like my dad said, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. John Huffman also wanted to be a politician as a kid, and so he thought a lot about that career and actually looked up to Nixon, and Nixon was his hero.
Yeah.
So when he saw Nixon get into trouble, he identified with that. He said it could have been me, and the temptations that he's facing and the sin that he seems to have fallen into, I can imagine that I also would have ended up there. And so then he was able to say, what would I have wanted? A friend, a faithful companion, what would I have needed if I was in his situation? And think of that really kind of honestly, and that gave him courage. Finally, and I think the most important thing, I really thought, wow, he's just so bold. But when I asked him, he didn't see it that way at all. He said, no, I loved him. That was the real thing. I loved this man. I wanted the best for him, and I couldn't leave him in his bad state just because it reflected well on me to be around him, or because I got a little, boost of celebrity by being in his presence. I cared about him enough to say the hard thing.
Yeah, having those crucial conversations and the courage to do that is always based on love. There were a couple of things in there that you mentioned that I thought were so profound. One was actually a quote from Huffman talking about being in those halls of power and how easy it is to nod along and not really know what you're nodding at, except for the fact that you're there. You're in the White House. You're in Congress. You're in the marbled halls. And how easy that is. And it was interesting, in a lot of the political work that I've done, the most compelling question I've ever heard someone ask someone thinking about getting into politics and running for election and office was, do you care for the welfare of your soul? And I thought John Huffman understood that. And I love the fact that he wasn't judging Nixon. He was really saying, wow, I worry about my soul. And if I was in that kind of power, I'd be worried about me as well. And I think that leads to the kind of love you're talking about, where you do actually tell the truth.
Yeah, and a kind of caution about flattery. I think we often assume that the great moral temptation comes like the devil with horns offering you some big deal that's obviously a compromise. But we all like to be flattered. It feels nice to have people praise you. It feels nice to have people think you're important, and that seems to be where the temptation comes in, and where that slippery slope to sin comes in. And Huffman just had a real caution about that I hope we can all learn from.
Yeah, it's such a powerful piece, and again, you can check that out at Christianity Today. And then also be ready, August the 8th, One Lost Soul, Richard Nixon's Search for Salvation. Daniel Silliman, of course, is news editor at Christianity Today. And Daniel, thanks to you for getting us to rethink a few things. And these are crucial conversations we have to get to. Brilliant writing, brilliant piece, and helping us to get underneath what a lot of us think we know about Watergate and Richard Nixon, and getting to a space where we can all look in the mirror and maybe look at ourselves a little differently as well. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Boyd.
Incredible perspective there. Daniel Silliman joining us from Tennessee today. Again, he's the editor of Christianity Today. And his new book coming out on Nixon is one you've got to check out. One Lost Soul, Richard Nixon's Search for Salvation. But I love the fact that he focuses on this kind of unassuming, regular, ordinary John Huffman, clergy, who was the only one, as far as anyone can tell, that actually told Nixon that he needed to confess. He needed to tell the American people the truth. And there were many others, Billy Graham and a host of others, who had opportunities and didn't. And so I think that's an important thing. You don't have to have your own show. You don't have to be a big headliner. You don't have to be a writer or an author to speak truth to power. You don't have to be in an elected office or a big business person. It's about understanding what is truth, that truth matters, that character matters, and that the worth of the soul is really great, whether it's a president of the United States or anyone else. And what has to drive us to those crucial conversations is love. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It's been a crazy summer.
The shooter managed to get onto a roof.
Biden has already endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris.
It's a hot weather stretch.
The Olympics are coming back to Utah.
And no hint of slowing down. Tim and Amanda get you caught up on what happened overnight from 5 to 9. Dave and Debbie and Boyd Matheson take a deep dive on the day's biggest stories from 9 to 3. And Jeff Kaplan gives you his trademark minute of news for your drive home.
We have you covered
All summer.
on KSL News Radio.
Well, do you want swift, safe, sustainable results? Super simple. Just go to sotaweightloss.com, SOTAweightloss.com, click the Request a Nutritionist callback, and I'm telling you, within minutes, you'll be talking to someone who can actually help you get there. Get rid of the extra pounds and inches you've been carrying around for too long. That's what I did. Sota Weight Loss works. It is swift, it is safe, and it is sustainable. No drugs, no fad diets, just science and a nutritionist that's going to walk with you, talk with you every step of the way to get you where you want to go. I lost 37 pounds in 90 days, 2.5 years down the track, folks. The results, the success is still there. As I always say, when it comes to your Sota weight loss journey, no time to lose, only time to win. So start winning today. Swift, safe, sustainable results with state-of-the-art weight loss. Check it out at SOTAweightloss.com.
Hey Utah! When it comes to guiding the growth of our state, you buzzed in with your comments, and we listened to what you had to say. Your feedback on the future of Utah's housing, water, transportation, and open space will continue to help our leaders make important policy decisions, preserving and improving our high quality of life in meaningful ways for years to come. So, thanks for speaking up. Learn more about our state's future at guidingourgrowth.utah.gov.
I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, debunking 3 myths about fiduciaries. And you're going to be surprised about myth number 3. Myth number 1. Fiduciaries are too expensive. Not at Trajan Wealth. Our interests are aligned with yours, so we don't need to push costly investments. The more you make, the more we make. It's that simple. Myth number 2. They will only want to sell me something. Absolutely not. At Trajan Wealth, we have hearts of teachers, and it's our goal to educate and empower, not sell. And the biggest myth, myth number 3, fiduciaries are only for the wealthy. Not at Trajan Wealth. Whether you have 50 grand or 50 million, we know it was hard-earned and we'll treat it as such. Let's grow together. So, here's your opportunity for a 100% complimentary professional Q&A. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Gear up for the hunting season with the Shields Hunting Sale event starting now through August 4th. Now's the time to save up to 40% on your favorite archery gear, camo from First Light, optics from Vortex and Loophole, and so much more. Visit Shields in-store and talk with an expert to get everything you need to tag out this season. Or shop our full selection online at shields.com. Get prepared and save now through August 4th at Shields or shields.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, Utah's Supreme Court will issue an opinion tomorrow in a case challenging the trigger law that enables a nearly total abortion ban in the state. Second, a legal analyst is calling a challenge to Utah's law requiring ballots to be postmarked the day before Election Day a long shot, but says the legislature should take a closer look. And third, Southern Utah getting a new cemetery to serve more than 15,000 veterans and their families. Right now, sunny skies but hazy and 86 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
The assassination of a Hamas political leader has sent shockwaves through the Middle East, raising fears of a broader regional conflict. Bold strike, of course, coupled with the recent targeting of a Hezbollah leader in Beirut, marks a significant escalation in Israel's approach to its adversaries in the region. So as tensions rise and Iran vows retaliation, the delicate balance of power in the region does hang in the balance. So how will this impact ceasefire negotiations, fragile relationships in the Middle East, hostage negotiations as well? We turn, as we often do, to Elliot Abrams, Senior Fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council of Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C., served as Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy National Security Advisor for George W. Bush, and a Special Representative for Iran and Venezuela for President Trump, and has a great perspective in terms of this region and what it really means and how we should be framing and thinking about it. And Elliot, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be with you again.
So help our listeners kind of get some framing, as this is a new level, to be sure, in terms of escalation in the region. Give us a sense of how you're viewing it and what we should be watching for.
Yep, it is a dangerous situation. I think the thing that really spurred this on was just a few days ago, Hezbollah shot a rocket into an area in the Golan Heights, a Druze area. It hit a football field and killed a dozen children. And the Israelis said, we got to respond to that. We can't have Hezbollah murdering children in that way. And so they have responded to Hezbollah. And they've also responded to Hamas. And, of course, that's an ongoing war in Gaza. So they've eliminated one of the leaders of Hamas, and they've eliminated an Iranian guy who was a Revolutionary Guards guy who actually was involved in the 1983 bombing of the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut. So he's got American blood on his hands. Now we await the response from Iran and from Hezbollah. I still don't think people want a major war, an all-out war. The Israelis certainly don't, and I don't think Iran does. So I think they're, everybody is trying to calculate how far can we go without turning this into a major war.
Yeah. Give us some sense in terms of Gaza in particular and the hostages specifically. Obviously, he was the lead negotiator in terms of, even though he was in exile and living in some pretty high-rise places. But give us a sense, does this end those? Is it deep freeze? Are we somewhere in between? What is that path, if any, moving forward?
Yeah, good question. It doesn't end the negotiations. I think it ends them for a while. I mean, for maybe some weeks. Mm-hmm. He's not Khalid Mashal, the guy who was killed, is not the decision maker. I'm sorry, Ismail Haniyeh, not the decision maker. Yahya Sinwar, who's in Gaza, who's the military leader of Hamas, is the decision maker. And one of the reasons that the negotiations are so slow is you can talk to the people outside, in Doha, Qatar, or elsewhere, but they've then got to send messages back into Gaza to say to Sinwar, are these terms acceptable? So, Hania can come and go, Khalid Mashal can come and go. These guys are, frankly, expendable because they're really just messengers. They're taking down what we say, what the Israelis say, and then they're sending it to Gaza to say, how about this? How about that?
Fascinating. Give us some sense from your long experience, Elliot. How does this play out? Obviously, with President Biden, we've still not heard anything from the administration, from President Biden specifically, in terms of any of these activities, how that plays. We know there is definitely a little bit of light between he and the vice president, who is now the presumptive nominee for the Democrats. What does this do? And then, of course, you've got former President Trump in the wings as well.
Yep.
How does this impact in terms of clarity versus chaos and uncertainty? What does that do in the region?
I think it makes everything harder. Everybody has the question of, well, Biden's there until January 20th, but how much is Biden there?
Right.
What shape is Biden in? Is he really making all these decisions, or is it Secretary of State Blinken or National Security Advisor Sullivan? And how much does he consult now with Kamala Harris? And does she want to create daylight between herself and the president? President Biden goes around saying, I really feel I'm a Zionist. She does not say that. She never says that. And then you've got to ask whether, Iran certainly and Hamas, they're all thinking about President Trump and a possible return to power. And President Trump, has said numerous times, this didn't happen when I was president. They didn't dare do this when I was president. And so then you have to ask, well, are the Iranians going to try to get in some more licks before he comes back, if he does? So it makes everything more uncertain because people have to keep recalculating. And they have to recalculate almost every week as they look at our opinion polls.
Right. That is so fascinating, and it is a day by day, a lot of ebb and flow, a lot of calculation and recalculation going on, and again, it makes it very difficult to get to clarity and certainty in terms of a path forward.
It does. I would say one other thing on this, though, and that is, I think that the most useful thing we can do now to avoid a major war is something the Secretary of Defense did today, which is to say, look, if there is a major war here, we're going to have Israel's back. Because that's a message to Iran that says, don't try it. You'll regret it if you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we should be saying. It's deterrence.
Yeah, and that deterrence is such a crucial piece of that equation. Elliot Abrams, Senior Fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C., someone we always love to talk to get the framing, the perspective, understand how we connect the dots and make all of this deep, complicated stuff make sense in our world. Elliot, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, again, that's Elliot Abrams joining us from Washington, D.C. today. And it is anything but clear in terms of the path. I do think something will happen in the region that will impact how things play out over the next 97 days politically here in the United States as everyone tries to calculate and recalibrate in terms of what they're going to do. Do you do it based on the current president who will be there till January the 20th? Do you do it on the basis that the Biden administration, how much is President Biden driving the ship and making that all go? What is the role of Vice President Harris? Is she going to have a different policy? Is she leading some of these conversations? And then, of course, calculating if former President Trump were to win in November, how would that change the calculation of some of these players in the region? All of that makes this incredibly dicey, super complex. We'll continue to break it down and give you some things to watch. That's always the key thing we try to do on this show is make sure you're looking for some things so that when they do happen, you can say, oh, okay, I can connect that dot. That makes sense. And here's what I can actually do with that. We'll step aside for a quick bottom of the hour break. More Inside Sources coming up next.
6:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour, a Hail Mary pass. That's what one legal analyst is calling a move from one of the candidates in the 2nd Congressional District race. Colby Jenkins wants the state Supreme Court to overrule the state law about ballot postmark deadlines.
Jenkins' petition is arguing the state's deadline for mail-in voting infringes on Utahns' rights to a free and fair election. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas says he thinks that's a bit of a stretch and that we don't know if A, the high court will side with him, or B, if they'll even take up his case at all. Plus, if they did side with him, there's no guarantee any changes they make would be retroactive, where it would impact his race with Celeste Malloy.
That's KSL News Radio's Adam Small. Jenkins lost the race by just 214 votes. A recount is still ongoing. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Fed won't cut interest rates this month, but says it looks more positive later in the year.
We have made no decisions about future meetings, and that includes the September meeting. The broad sense of the committee is that the economy is moving closer to the point at which it will be appropriate to reduce our policy rate.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell there saying one positive sign is that inflation is much closer to their 2% target than it was before. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 81 points, the S&P 500 up 75. Coming up, get ready for the return of triple digits. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in zone.
It restores your engine to, like, factory clean?
And protects.
Get in zone.
So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for $37.99.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. You know, I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. You know, basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you are always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Overall, a nice and quiet drive on the Valley freeways, including I-15, and that goes from Bountiful to Bluffdale. We do have a crash in downtown Salt Lake City, 6th West, between 3rd and 4th South. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com. Affordable windows guaranteed. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Smoky skies today with a high of 93, triple digits returning by the weekend. Right now you've got sunny skies but hazy at 87. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, yesterday, the Senate passed a major legislation to address the issue of child safety in online spaces. Of course, the bill goes to the House, and the House is not in the House. They've taken off for a month. We don't call that recess. We call it in-state work period. It is a lot of work for members of Congress, but nothing is going to move anytime soon. Now, the legislation aims to mitigate the harmful effects of the internet on America's youth. Noble cause, crucial conversation we have to get to. How it goes about it is where we want to dig in a little bit and see what's right, what's wrong, what we need to be concerned about as this conversation continues to move forward. And as we often do on this subject, we turn to our good friend Shoshana Weissman, fellow at the R Street Institute. She works on occupational license reform, social media regulatory policy, Section 230, and other issues. And as we always say with Shoshana, some people are born Utahns, some are Utahns by chance, and Shoshana is a Utahn by choice, even though she lives in our nation's capital. But Shoshana, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, so let's break this down. Obviously, it was an overwhelming passage yesterday in the Senate, 91-3 on the package. Just for our listeners, first just give us the essence in terms of what is in this, and then let's talk about what we should be concerned about and what kind of conversation we need to have.
For sure. So there's a lot of components, but I'll go through the top pieces. So one of the top pieces is that it makes it so social media companies have to give monitoring tools to children and to parents. So basically kids can monitor their own time, understand what's happening to them on the platform, and that parents can override some of those settings and say, no, I want my kid to be on this platform less time, I'll allow them more time. It gives them certain filtering software just to, parental control, stuff like that. Yeah. Then another piece of it is that the Attorney General, the FTC is able to say what's harmful for children, and then platforms have to keep that stuff away from kids. But there's really no free speech limitations there, so it can be a lot of different things, whatever they think causes them anxiety or depression, as defined by the DSM, the technical manual that gets into this stuff. And then another component, it's really difficult because this is actually, normally bills are passed like they're bills and that's just the bill. This is actually a 107-page amendment to a totally unrelated bill. So they passed it this way, and it combines two bills. The second bill reshapes COPA, basically children online and data, and makes it so that kids under 17 need parental consent to go online. So those are kind of the core components of the bills.
Okay. And so now let's break it down a little bit in terms of, again, I think everyone hears the title of the bill. You hear some of those high-level things in the bill. You think, okay, this is progress. This is moving forward. But there's also some things under the surface. What are the things that concern you or things that we should be aware of when we start going down this path?
So there are so many things that concern me, and it's really frustrating. I want to give a shout out to Senator Mike Lee for voting against it. I really appreciate that. So there's to start, I love parental controls. I think that's a really good thing that parents should be able to decide what works for their kids online. The problem is that this bill mandates that parents have to have these controls. So when you create that legal liability saying, it's not just parents signing up and saying, oh, hey, come over here, let's make sure our accounts are linked. But it's if the platform doesn't make sure that the parent is linked to the child's account, then they face liability. Well, the only way to do that isn't through age verification. It's identity verification, proving the child is the child and the parent or guardian is the right parent or guardian. You have to prove that relationship through really invasive means, government IDs, social security numbers, face scans. And there's a lot of problems with this, from First Amendment issues, anonymous speech issues, and cybersecurity issues. But a really big one here is child identity theft, which is a huge problem. Kids don't monitor their online presence, their credit scores. They don't go to Experian to monitor stuff. They can't use credit, so they're really big targets. And this is going to make it so much worse if this goes through. And then to the other pieces, making sure that kids authenticate and have parental consent. That's going to cause similar issues in general. And then for the FTC being able to decide what is and what isn't speech that gives kids anxiety. Well, so are kids not allowed to learn about war? Are they not allowed to learn about climate change, which gives some kids anxiety? Pro-life and pro-choice groups came out against the bill because they were worried that their causes wouldn't be allowed to reach kids and would ultimately be censored online. So there's a lot of issues.
Yeah, there's so many things underneath the surface. So this is one of those where, again, we have to get past the headline and you have to get in. And this is why we always say it'd be really nice if we had time to read the bills and really have a debate in public about the pros and the cons, because a nicely labeled and an issue that probably has 90% support in terms of let's make sure we're keeping our kids safe and making sure we're helping their mental health. But there's a lot of things underneath that you start unpacking that become pretty problematic. So as you look at this, Shoshana, and kind of projecting forward, obviously nothing's going to happen real soon and likely nothing in the fall. I don't know that the House is going to be in the House a whole lot of days between now and the first Tuesday of November. But what should we be watching for? And then give us one thing that you would love to see in a bill that could do some of those right things without going down the rabbit hole and the slippery slope of things that could go sideways.
For sure. So we've actually not been totally sure how things were going to move. We didn't expect this to move so fast, and the House keeps going back and forth, or at least House leadership on what they're thinking here. So it really just could move at any time. It's worth keeping an eye on it. If I recall correctly, I actually think, oddly enough, that the bill this is attached to is the Eliminate Useless Reporting Act, and this bill has so many reporting requirements. So it's just a beautiful sense of irony there. It's funny. I've been getting really into child identity theft because age verification and even just implied, even not explicit age verification policy creates all these child identity theft issues. Right. So I've been working with a child welfare expert here, and we've been talking. I actually have a piece coming out I'm very excited about on ways that the government makes the problem worse for child identity theft, like the IRS not telling parents when they know that a child's identity is stolen. So we have ideas to fix that, to fix so many different parts of the system there. Unfortunately, I just don't think mandates for filtering software is going to work here. There's already a lot of software that I totally encourage parents to use that don't create all these problems, including for the very same parents and kids using them. But I think there's a lot the government can do to prevent child identity theft, which even if we were going to do these age verification bills, at minimum, we should take care of the child identity theft problem before we go and do something that could make it worse.
Yeah, great perspective as always. We will watch for your piece, and we will have you back to break that down for us. Shoshana Weissman, best in the business when it comes to social media, regulatory policy, Section 230, all of those issues. Shoshana, thank you so much for making time for us, and we look forward to getting you back out here to the Beehive State for your residency.
I missed the hiking.
All right. All right. Very good. That's Shoshana Weissman joining us from Washington, D.C. She's a fellow at the R Street Institute. And these are important conversations. And that's why when you have a bill that sounds nice, it's easy to vote yes. But you got to go underneath that and make sure that all the I's get dotted, the T's get crossed, and the unintended consequences, including things like identity theft from young people, is part of that conversation. So we'll have Shoshana back to continue that because we do need to address this. How we do it matters, and we all got to lean into that conversation. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, the Other Night DNI. On opening night, by the way, we had the chance to see The Nutty Professor, which is playing right now at Hale Center Theater. By the way, it continues on through August 17th. This was so much fun. For those of us who love the old Jerry Lewis movie, boy, it has ties to that. And the music of Marvin Hamlish is incredible. And the way it's staged at Hale Center Theater is simply a delight. Get your tickets now. Simply go to hct.org. Do not miss your chance to see The Nutty Professor. It's on the stage right now, and it is so wonderful. There is always something amazing awaiting you on the stages at Hale Center Theater. The Addams Family coming up in August. We've got The Magician's Elephant, and of course the classic Beauty and the Beast. Get your tickets now. Simply go to hct.org. And by the way, for current season ticket holders, it's time to renew now at Hale Center Theater.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention. Like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See? We didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Don't let spring allergies make you miserable. Try the quick, drug-free solution trusted by over 4 million people, Navage. Only Navage uses suction to flush out your sinuses using refreshing saline, helping you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. And here's even better news. Navage is now available at your local Sam's Club in a great new value pack. It's everything you need to start breathing better fast. Check out Navage at your local Sam's Club today. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Breathe easy.
Discover the best of senior living at Trio Orem and Trio South Ogden. Today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey, they're seeking a new one. And Trio Independent Living is here to help them do just that. With a smart, modern, and connected lifestyle, residents cultivate relationships and maximize independence through signature programs like Prime Fit Wellness that bring living well and well-being to life. Welcome to the new age of senior living. Schedule your visit at leisurecare.com/Utah today.
Hey Utah! When it comes to guiding the growth of our state, you buzzed in with your comments, and we listened to what you had to say. Your feedback on the future of Utah's housing, water, transportation, and open space will continue to help our leaders make important policy decisions, preserving and improving our high quality of life in meaningful ways for years to come. So, thanks for speaking up. Learn more about our state's future at guidingourgrowth.utah.gov.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, unhealthy air will stick around through at least Saturday. On the Wasatch Front, we continue to get that smoke from wildfires in California. Second, a foreign national living in West Valley City is facing federal charges in a massive fentanyl bust. Agents seized 20,000 pills. And third, UTA is looking at adding more tracks, trains, and expanded bus service to Salt Lake City International Airport. Right now, hazy at 87 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
As the 2024 presidential race heats up, along with other races up and down the ballot all across the country, you're going to get a lot of contrast ads. Some will call them hit pieces. And the important thing for all of us is to make sure as we consume those, whether it's online, whether it's a television ad, whether it's a radio ad, it's important for us to make sure we are informed, that we're not just taking things at face value. And the best way to do that is to do some fact checking. Well, the original fact checker, and still the best in the business, Glenn Kessler, joins us from the Washington Post today. Glenn, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be with you.
So I want to start, before we get into some of the recent things, obviously there's a lot of shaping trying to go on with the vice president as she becomes the top of the ticket and a target of a lot of these attack ads from the right in particular, trying to frame who and what she is rolling into the fall. But I want to start a little more broad because I think it's so important for our listeners to hear it from you in terms of, one, the role of fact-checking, how it can play a role in shaping public opinion and help all of us make sure we're looking at things that are real as opposed to misinformation or disinformation or otherwise.
Well, I mean, as I often say, the fact-checking here at the Washington Post, it complements the political reporting that we have. So we have news reports, and you're going to hear people say, make accusations one way or the other. And at the fact checker, what we do is we look at those claims and break down how accurate they are. Politicians are like used car salesmen. They want to sell you a car, a policy, and we help you check under the hood to make sure that everything's working right.
That may be the best description of all. If you're going to buy a car, please have somebody check under the hood to make sure you're not being sold a real lemon. And sometimes we see that. And, of course, now we've compounded that a lot with some of these PACs and super PACs that are not necessarily tied. Well, actually, they can't be tied to the campaigns. Give us a sense from a fact-checking standpoint. Does that make all of this more complicated? Because you can have the politicians say, well, that's not me. I can't talk to them. They're a super PAC. Does that make the fact-checking process even more difficult?
Well, I mean, some of the worst, most factually inaccurate ads are from those super PACs, because the ads that are done by the candidates, they got to have their name there saying I approve this message. You can always tell it's an attack ad if it says I approve this message at the beginning. That's a sign that you're going to see an attack ad. If it's a positive message, they'll say it at the end to remind you that they were endorsing this message.
Yeah. That's such an important thing for us to watch. Again, everyone make a mental note of that, especially once we get past Labor Day and we're going to be inundated with all of these. That is a real good indication in terms of what kind of message you're hearing, whether it's from the candidate or whether it's from one of these super PACs. What you hear in that in terms of who endorses that message and when they endorse that message can give you a good sense of where it's coming from. Well, let's take a look at some of the early ads coming out against Vice President Harris as she makes her way as the presumptive nominee now for the Democrats. Just give us one quick hit, Glenn, in terms of looking at some of these new ads that have come out, trying to define her in one way versus what the Democrats will be trying to define when they get to their convention.
Right. Well, we start with this ad released by the Trump campaign, and in fact, if you watch it, you'll see that it starts with Donald Trump saying, I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message. So that's going to be an attack ad. It's heavily focused on her role in the administration to address what they call the root causes of migration from 3 Central American countries. And it calls her the border czar, which was never a term that she ad or that she ever accepted. But, Republicans, with some success, managed to pin that label on her. And so they used this to say, they have a video of her dancing and say, this is America's border czar, and she failed us. And then there are a bunch of statistics, pretty misleading, having to do with the surge of migration at the southern border.
Yeah, and so often in those kinds of ads, there's just enough truth to it, or you can see, if you just look at the headline, you might say, oh, yeah, that's a bad issue. But as always, you have to get underneath that and unpack it just a little bit more. Just describe for us some of those things that, again, as we're having this debate rolling into November, that we should be watching for.
Well, I mean, it is a simple fact that there's been an incredible surge of migrants at the border, and it's dropped a lot in recent weeks since President Biden issued emergency orders that really tried to stem the flow there. But it's misleading to pin this on Harris, who was not the Homeland Security Secretary, and she was not the border coordinator or the border czar or anything like that. She had a very discreet effort, which was to engage with these Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, and to help those countries with aid and other things to lessen the conditions that led to this migration. And if you look at the statistics, migration from those three countries dropped by 2/3 since she took on the assignment. Now, whether or not you can credit that to her or not, there are a variety of reasons for why that might happen. But what hit the Biden administration was that migration surged from other countries, particularly Venezuela, where there's a huge economic crisis, and also Cuba and Haiti. And so, those, that's where the main migration came from.
Yeah. And then finally, let me just ask you real quick, Glenn, as we look at these kinds of ads, in terms of, are they really swaying people? And just kind of walk us through, again, from a fact-checking standpoint, kind of the attack ad versus the biographical ad, in terms of a strategy within a campaign. And again, what we need to be watching for as we consume both those kinds of ads.
Right. Well, the way the Trump ad ends is, Kamala Harris failed, weak, dangerously liberal. She released on the same day this ad came out a bio ad, which, portrays her as fearless and tough, and talks about her when she was a prosecutor. She put murderers and abusers behind bars, and when she was an attorney general, she went after the big banks and, obtained a settlement for homeowners. So, the positive ad, you can see very much that positive biographical ad is trying to counter the messaging of the negative ad, which is she's a weak person and she's responsible for millions of migrants crossing the border.
Yeah. Great perspective. Great insight as always. Glenn Kessler, the fact checker at the Washington Post, joins us from Washington, D.C. today. Glenn, thanks so much for making time. We always appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Again, that's Glenn Kessler joining us. And so as we start to really get that influx of presidential ads in particular, we know that both sides have raised not just boatloads, but fleet loads of money for this campaign. We know that just in the last week or so, the Harris campaign has brought in over $200 million. A lot of that's going to go to ads, and not just traditional ads that we see on TV or hear on the radio, but ads that are going to pop up in your social media feeds. They're going to pop up as you visit different websites. And I just can't stress enough how important it is for us to step back and to recognize what we're being served up and why, and then that we do the fact-checking. And it doesn't mean we have to spend all day in all of this stuff, but to just simply be aware. Glenn gave you one really important tip as you consume some of this. If the ad starts with either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris saying, I approve this message, then most likely it's going to be one of those very negative kinds of ads, and you might want to double-check the facts of that. If it's one of those where they end with their name and I approve this message, it was probably a biographical ad and probably a positive message because they want you to reinforce that positive component. Those are all critical things for us, we the people, as we start to consume all of this moving towards Election Day 2024. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top of the hour news, but don't you go anywhere. We've got a big hour number 2 coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour, a legal analyst calls a candidate's decision to ask the Utah Supreme Court to overrule state elections law a Hail Mary pass. KSL's Greg Skorda says the court may not hear the case at all, let alone side with Colby Jenkins.
I think it's a stretch. I think there's very little chance that the Supreme Court will bite on that.
The recount in the contest between Jenkins and Congresswoman Celeste Malloy is still underway. Jenkins wants to allow late mail-in ballots to be counted. He's arguing the mail-in deadline infringes on Utahns' right to a free and fair election. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former President Donald Trump faces criticism today over comments he made at the National Association of Black Journalists convention about Vice President Kamala Harris.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always
But
identified as a black woman.
I respect
she went to historically black.
That response came during a Q&A session moderated by ABC's Rachel Scott. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 99 points, the S&P 500 up 85, the NASDAQ up 452. Coming up, how long will this haze and smoke stick around? KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 2:01.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
People have asked me why I chose soda weight loss instead of one of those shots or injections. Honestly, one of the reasons was because first, I knew soda got results. I just looked at my friends who'd already done it, and second, I knew those results stuck. With the shots, most people eventually gain back the weight they lost and then some, because it doesn't change the habits that led to their weight gain in the first place. Soda weight loss specializes in releasing the toxic deep down fat mass in the belly without drugs, pills, or shots. I let go of 70 pounds in just 5 months. They've helped me change my relationship with food and develop simple life habits that'll make my long-term success a sure thing. Basically, soda gets results and they last. See for yourself at sodaweightloss.com. Check out the thousands of before and after pictures of people just like you and me. While you're there, click the Request a Nutritionist callback. Within minutes, you'll be talking to someone who truly wants to help you get in the best shape of your life for the rest of your life. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. And remember, soda stands for, say it with me, State of the Art.
Summer is upon us, and you know what your lawn wants? It wants Revive Organic Soil Treatment upon it. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn all summer. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. You'll see the difference. Revive is surefire defense against summer drought and skyrocketing water costs. Make the most of your watering with Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
Hi, I'm Congressman John Curtis. It can be stressful waiting for an answer from a government agency. If you live in Utah's 3rd Congressional District and you need help with a passport, the VA, IRS, Social Security, or any other federal agency, come to my open house on August 5th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at American First Credit Union in Vineyard. I'll give you a brief update on Congress, and my staff will be available to help you. If you're unable to make it, you can also call my office at 801-922-5400 or visit curtis.house.gov for additional events. It's my honor to represent you. If you live in Utah's 3rd Congressional District and you need help with a passport, the VA, IRS, Social Security, or any other federal agency, come to my open house on August 5th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at American First Credit Union in Vineyard. paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Couple of disabled vehicles stuck in traffic. One is going to be in Parley's Canyon. This is eastbound I-80, about a mile east of Mountaindale, blocking the center and right lanes of travel. And then a disabled vehicle in Riverdale. This is westbound Riverdale Road at 7th West in Weber County in the center lane. Meet T.C. Christensen, director of the runaway box office hit Escape from Germany at Deseret Books' City Creek flagship store, Thursday, August 1st at 6 p.m. Escape from Germany, DVD, Blu-ray, early and autographed. Tomorrow, Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Smoke and haze through at least Saturday with temps back in triple-digit range by the weekend. Right now, sunny, hazy, and 88 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the headline numbers are painting a pretty dire situation for churches of all kinds in America. Many pastors can share their experiences that highlight the broader shifts occurring in American religious life to one of secularization. And as traditional churches, as their attendance is on the decline, the rise of the religiously unaffiliated, or nuns, as they're often called, continues to increase. It gives us an opportunity to stop, to pause, to question the future for ourselves and for our communities as well. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, a powerful piece at Deseret.com caught my attention last week and just captivated me for days. I couldn't get it out of my head, which is often why we do this show, because things just keep coming back around. Ryan Burge was the pastor of an American Baptist church in Illinois for more than 17 years. He's an associate professor of political science at Eastern Illinois University, co-author and author of 4 books, including The Nuns. Again, those religious unaffiliated. The title caught me saying, "My church is closing and I don't know what comes next for me or America." Crucial conversation. And Ryan joins us on the line from Illinois today. Ryan, thanks for coming on with us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Your piece was so powerful and stirring. I will admit, I am a crier. I did cry. I thought deeply. I reflected, and then I kept coming back, which I think is the indication of a great thought, a great piece of writing, and most importantly, a challenging idea for our souls. And so walk us through your experience. I know you were sort of the accidental pastor there in terms of your beginning, but walk us through your journey.
Yeah, I mean, the accidental pastor is actually a good name for my autobiography at this point. I grew up in an evangelical household in a Southern Baptist church, and was always a leader in my youth group, but really never felt called to be a pastor particularly, but through a bunch of happenstance kept falling into jobs in the ministry as a youth pastor to begin with, and then at a little church in Marion, Illinois for a year. And then I really wanted to get away from ministry, but First Baptist Church in Mount Vernon called me to preach one Sunday, and I said yes, and they called me to preach the next Sunday, and I said yes, and then they called me up and said, "Would you be the interim pastor?" And I said yes. And somehow I stuck it out for 17 and a half years, watched my congregation go from about 50 on a good Sunday back when I started to we had 8 to 10 on an average Sunday in the last couple months.
Wow. And this was, I don't think this was any ordinary church. It dated back to the 1860s. And just kind of walk us through the emotions of kind of powering that down, getting down to just 8 members, and just kind of walk us through that part of the journey.
Yeah, it's everyone wants to be part of a growing organization, but very few people want to be part of a dying organization, is what I've realized. And I started to call myself a hospice pastor at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of churches that are in the same spot that we're in. Once you get below a certain number of people, it's really, really hard to recover. especially when almost all your members are 75 or 80 years old or older. So even a young couple comes in the door, they look around and go, well, this is not my people. This is not for me. And they go to a different church down the road. So I think what happened with our church is when I first got there, it was like, oh, we got a young pastor. We're going to grow. We're going to do all these things. And then after 5 or 7 years, when we're 10 people down from when I started, I think everyone started to realize that I'm not going to be able to solve the problem. And that actually is emotionally pretty hard to deal with because, you know, you want to have the savior complex, right? You want to think if I preach hard enough and pray hard enough and work hard enough, my congregation will grow. And my congregation did not grow. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that we had to give away our building, which people tithed and worked and toiled to build. And I had to close down a church that has existed since right after the Civil War, 1868, we were founded. So in many ways, it feels like I'm disappointing or letting down all those people who came before me who built that institution and maintained that institution with blood, sweat, and tears for decades. And for whatever reason, we just couldn't keep it going.
Yeah, and that's such it is all of those feelings of what went wrong, and if I could have just prayed a little better or preached a little better or connected with the people a little better, it could have been different. And I think it's so interesting the way you really juxtaposed your experience at the pulpit and leading that congregation with a lot of your other work, your academic work, in terms of what is going on in the country when it comes to faith.
Yeah, that's the really odd part of my story is that as I was leading a church that was dying, I kind of built this national platform about understanding American religion. And so people would, you know, invite me to do talks and webinars and presentations about the future of American faith and how we can grow the church. And I co-authored a book called The Great Dechurching that came out last year. It sold a whole bunch of copies, and it's about why people left church. And people are asking me why people left church and what can we do to get them back. And I'd come home on Sunday morning and preach to 8 people. It's like if I knew the secret to this problem, I would have done it by now. And yet, you know, everyone's kind of grasping for the same straws. And if you have any modicum of data or insight, they'll elevate you to this point, even though you can't make it work in your own. It's a very weird dualistic existence to go talk to a group of 500 pastors on a Friday and then come home on Saturday and preach to a congregation of 8 people on Sunday. It's just hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, and so give us some insight from both your experience and from the data and the research that you've done in terms of the impact of this. I always say that, you know, faith in the future of America begins with faith in the future of America, and it's obviously evolving and changing what we can actually do and taking our authentic selves into the public square and religious liberty, but it's also just that connective tissue of community. And as you said, if you have an aging population of people who are participating and engaging in that, then eventually they will age out. How do we reestablish or get rid of some of that atrophy and some of those connective tissue muscles?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a couple implications for this we're not really considering, and we should. And the first one is simply this. What's going to happen is people are going to have less friends and they're going to be more socially isolated in the future without religion, especially older people. You know, the Surgeon General said that loneliness is an epidemic now that we really need to think about more meaningfully. And a lot of older people came to church because of the social connections. And one of the saddest conversations I had was on our very last day we met. And one of the older ladies in my church goes, "Where am I going to go next Sunday?" You know, she was really just struggling about what's next for her. And the other part of this, I don't think people think about a lot, is the invisible social safety net that religion provides in American society. You know, the clothes closets, the food pantries, the soup kitchens, the after-school tutoring, all those things that churches across America are doing and don't get accolades for it, don't make the national news for it. And what I know is Americans don't have an appetite for a bigger government. We're not going to be Sweden or Norway or Denmark. So if the government's not going to get bigger and religion's going to fade, a lot of people are going to fall through bigger and bigger holes in that social safety net. Nothing's going to catch them. So the addicted, the lonely, the depressed, the economically disadvantaged, what are they going to do when they don't have places to go to help lift them up? I think I'm really worried about what this means for the people that are kind of on the edges of American society, both as a political scientist and as a pastor. Those are the people that we really think about a lot, is who the least of these, who's going to find them in the future when there's not as many churches.
Yeah, and I love that idea of the invisible safety net versus just the social safety net of government. Government has a role to play, but so often those on the margins, those that do fall through the cracks, do get saved by that invisible safety net, and whether they're a person of faith or of no faith. What I have seen is religious organizations and faith-based groups go out and just serve the one and the needy, and make a difference in our communities that is often undervaluated, as you said, doesn't make the nightly news or the big headlines online. Give us one final thought before I let you go. I love the way you concluded both your last sermon and your piece in terms of what we all ought to maybe think again about what we think we know when it comes to faith in America.
Yeah, I think the headlines are always the pastor who abuses a child, or the pastor who steals the money, or the church, the mega church buying the new jet. But you know what most churches are like in America? They're like mine. They're just 20 or 30 people who love each other and love the Lord and love their community and try to do their best to be a better person and a better citizen. And those churches closing is a net negative for American society. I have a really hard time for anyone telling me that, oh, it's good that my church closed down. It is not good. There is no good in that. It's bad for us. It's bad for America. It's bad for me personally. I think it's bad for our community. And I think we need to have a real conversation about what the average religious person is in America, not the Joel Osteens or the Creflo Dollars, but the average churchgoer is going to lose things when these doors close of these churches across America.
Yeah, such a great perspective. Ryan Burge was the pastor of American Baptist Church in Illinois for more than 17 years, is author of the book The Nuns, and is there at Eastern Illinois University. And Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, for your perspective. Your piece is absolutely fabulous. Everyone can check that out at Deseret.com. And Ryan, we look forward to having you back, because I think there's an element of this conversation that we've got to keep stringing along, because I think it will ultimately make the connection, and I think it is the path forward. Again, faith in the future starts with faith in the future. Thanks so much for blessing us today.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
All right, that's Ryan Burge joining us today. It is a fabulous piece. It will tear at your heartstrings. It will make you think about your own faith journey. It will make you think about people who have interacted and made a difference in your life, whether in a church or out of a church, in a neighborhood and community, but those good souls, fellow travelers who just go out there and make a difference. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It could be almost anyone.
Harris will have to choose a running mate, and she will have to do it fast.
Who does Kamala Harris choose to round out the Democratic ticket? This fall, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance will take on Harris, and, well, we'll find out. Listen to KSL for the short list and speculation. Your voice, your vote 2024 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. Over the years, I've talked a lot about hard water. Takes years off the life of water heaters and other appliances in your home. Leaves scum on the shower walls, and you almost need a jackhammer to remove that. I've talked about how Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer, their water softeners are maintenance-free. You just don't need adjustment, and they do the job with 2/3 less salt than other softeners. But today, I want to talk about the exhilarating feeling of stepping into a hot bath or shower and feeling that pure, soft water cascade over your skin. It feels like every pore in your body wants to stand up and start singing. And afterward, there are no itchy hard water deposits sticking all over you. You really should look into a soft water system from Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. You can learn more about Connecticut by giving them a call at 801-576-8600 or log on to Softwater Utah. Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. Then sit back and enjoy your shower even more.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This Friday, join KSL News Radio and Hale Center Theater as the movie show broadcasts live at the theater beginning at 10 a.m., 9900 South Monroe Street in Sandy. Save money on season tickets. 2025 season tickets to Hale Center Theater go on sale to the general public Wednesday, August 1st. The 2025 season includes Little Women, the Broadway musical, DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt, Finding Neverland, 12 Angry Men, Footloose, the musical comedy Murders of 1940, Sister Act, and one musical to be announced August 1st. Not included in the season ticket will be a special engagement by Gentry, the Gentleman's Trio, and Hale Center Theater's 40th production of A Christmas Carol. You can reserve your 2025 season tickets by going to hct.org or call 801-984-9000.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, the recall of Boar's Head products is expanding. 71 products under that label and the Old Country label are being recalled nationwide over a listeria outbreak. Second, western wildfires continue to drive smoke into the Wasatch Front. State air quality officials say it won't clear up until after Saturday. And third, southern Utah is getting a new cemetery to serve more than 15,000 veterans and their families. Right now, hazy, 88 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
We're obviously in the middle of a very busy election year. Of course, presidential politics will dominate the headlines and be the center of our political discussions until the first Tuesday of November. There'll also be some pretty big spending battles coming up in the United States Congress. And, of course, that all starts with appropriations processes and what goes on there. And as we always remind everyone, September 30th always comes. And so we will watch and see what happens in terms of funding the government or whether that gets kicked down the road past the election. But we want to get into all of that, especially in light of the fact that we just ticked over the top of $35 trillion of national debt. So we should have a conversation about spending. Someone who understands all of that, Emily Brooks, of course, covers politics in the House of Representatives for The Hill and joins us on the line from Arlington, Virginia today. And Emily, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, spending. It's always about spending. And currently, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is starting to feel some heat from his own members when it comes to the rate of spending and how that might shape up going forward.
Yes, absolutely. This has been sort of the story of the last year and a half in the House of Representatives. Everybody remembers that former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted right after he approved a stopgap continuing resolution funding bill to continue funding the government after September 30th. Last year, after there was a whole bunch of internal disagreement among Republicans about spending issues. And even with the change of speakership, those issues and disagreements and about strategy and funding levels have continued. And Speaker Johnson is certainly still getting a lot of frustration from his members. The process, theoretically, is supposed to be Congress passes 12 different individual appropriations bills funding different areas of the government. The House has passed some of those, but a lot of them have not been able to be passed. The leadership has pulled those from consideration amid internal disagreements. And so that is sort of where we are. And now the Congress left, the House left a week earlier than scheduled for August recess because they knew they weren't going to be able to do anything with appropriations this week due to this disagreement.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting thing. And we always say if Congress would just do the job that they're elected to do, we'd never have the threat of a government shutdown ever in the history of ever. Just do the 12 appropriations bills, work them through the committees, get them onto the floor, get them voted in the House and the Senate, let the president sign it, and fund the government. But instead, we often end up with these battles. And as you mentioned, what we're likely to see is a continuing resolution. And often those don't just keep things on autopilot. There's usually a few pluses in there as well. Describe for us what you think. Obviously, they're taking a long recess. We always say in-state work period because there is a lot of work that they do in their congressional districts and in their home states in the Senate. But what do you expect to see post-Labor Day, knowing we're rolling into the teeth of an election for all members of the House? Are they going to come in and just quickly say, we can't do any of this and punt it to December? Or what does that look like from your perspective?
Well, that is really going to be the big debate about how they deal with this funding deadline. At this point, nobody is really expecting that the House will be able to, or Congress will be able to fund all of these different areas of government by the September 30th deadline. The Senate has passed 0 appropriations bills. The House has passed a few, but like I said, these are partisan bills that even Republicans cannot agree on. So this is not even getting to the discussion and negotiation phase with the Senate. And so at this point, the idea of going through the regular process, which almost never happens. We say the regular process, but that regular process as designed doesn't ever really happen.
So if we can get regular to be regular again, that would be like a major milestone for us.
Yeah, that's another discussion. But so the focus really is on this continuing resolution. Do you attach some other kind of policy towards it? The big debate right now, and that will heat up when lawmakers return, is how long do you want this continuing resolution to last until? You have people who are in the House Freedom Caucus, the more hardline conservative group, who are advocating actually having a longer continuing resolution into March of next year. And the reasoning behind that is that they don't want to end up in a situation where a continuing resolution lasts until December. It's a lame duck presidency, end of the year, and Congress rushes and passes a massive omnibus spending bill that's negotiated essentially by leaders in the House and Senate and leaves a lot of the rank and file and conservative priorities out of it. So that's what they're trying to avoid. However, on the other hand, you have people saying, well, that's a little bit presumptive. What if, Democrats win the White House? And even if Trump does win, it would be better to give him a clean slate to work with and not distract from things like appointing people to different positions and not have the distraction of a spending fight right as he starts the term. So going to be a very interesting debate in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, we will continue to keep our eye close on it. We know Emily Brooks will keep her eye close on it. You can always follow her at The Hill, and a great piece at thehill.com. Check that out today as well. Emily Brooks covers politics in the House of Representatives, particularly for The Hill. And Emily, as always, we appreciate your perspective and insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
So many important things to unpack there in what Emily presented in terms of the battles that are coming. So this is your fair warning moment in the dog days of summer that once we get past Labor Day, members of the House of Representatives will return, and they will have less than 30 days. They'll probably have about 15 working days, actually, to fund the government. Why? Because September 30th, which is the date, the deadline to fund the government. And it comes every single year. It's amazing. And if we can just get, as Emily said, if we can get regular order to be regular order, for Congress to do what they sign up to do. That's their job. It's one of the few things that is actually outlined in the Constitution that Congress has to do. And yet they haven't done it for so long that we just keep kicking it down. And then the political calculation will kick in. Do we kick it to December? Do we kick it to March so that whoever the new president is doesn't have to deal with it in the early days of an administration, and so on? A lot of things to continue to watch. A lot of politics will play in, and playing the politics of it all rarely leads us to good governance. All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. We'll come back, and we're going to go back to my conversation with a presidential candidate, Libertarian. Chase Oliver joined me yesterday. We're going to go back to that crucial conversation because it also has to deal with the dollars and cents. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. Unified Police are hoping you can help them track down whoever caused over $60,000 in damage to a Latter-day Saints meeting house in Magna. It happened sometime between July 28th and July 30th at 3151 South Broadway. Police are looking for witnesses and camera footage. Our top national story this hour, check your fridge if you buy lunch meat. More of it may need to be tossed out. KSL News Radio's Michelle Rowe has more details.
More Boar's Head products under the label Strasburger's brand are being recalled. The recall now includes 7 million pounds of additional products. The affected meat was produced at their Jarrett, Virginia facility, where they also produce ham, bologna, and sausage items. The company has paused their ready-to-eat operations at the affected facility until further notice.
The affected products have sell-by dates between July 29th and October 17th. Other national stories we're following: interest rates aren't going down yet. The Federal Reserve left them unchanged today, but said cuts could happen in September. Your money at this moment: the Dow ends the day up 99 points, the S&P up 85, the NASDAQ up 452. Coming up, that thick gray soup of smoke continues to blanket the valley. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you are always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Hey, Utah. When it comes to guiding the growth of our state, you buzzed in with your comments, and we listened to what you had to say. Your feedback on the future of Utah's housing, water, transportation, and open space will continue to help our leaders make important policy decisions, preserving and improving our high quality of life in meaningful ways for years to come. So, thanks for speaking up. Learn more about our state's future at guidingourgrowth.utah.gov.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1904 $20 Gold Liberty coins have been found. These gorgeous 1904p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 500 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1904 Gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1904 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 120 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-895-7664. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $75 value free with every order. Call 1-800-895-7664 now to secure your 1904 1904P $20 Gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-895-7664.
This is Todd Frayton's heart. He's begun his wellness journey. This is its sound on a treadmill, at a slight incline, on a stroll through the forest. And this is the heart of Maria Sanchez, his physician. What's it doing here? A lot, actually. Because when we partner with you, we don't just offer a strategic plan and status updates. We put our hearts into it, beat for beat. We call it the power of we, Intermountain Health.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Emergency crews are working on an auto pedestrian accident at Main Street and 1700 South. The stalled vehicle has been cleared eastbound I-80 east of Mountaindale, but residual delays continue. And drivers in Weber County, Roy PD and Fire, asking you to avoid the area about 2900 West, 5700 South as they work a structure fire. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hazy this afternoon, the high 93, smoke sticking around through Saturday. Right now, you've got fair skies and 90 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Get deeper insights on the news from inside sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. And, of course, as we continue to march our way towards the first Tuesday of November, the vast majority of the attention has been on the Republicans and the Democrats and back and forth. And, as always, we have to make sure we're stepping back and looking beyond those headlines and the fake fight and the false choice. That doesn't have to be either or. We've often criticized not the duopoly, but the two-headed monopoly that has been part of our politics, and it is how you actually get over $35 trillion in debt. And so we wanted to look at some of the other candidates and what is going on, what their agenda would look like, because you do have a choice. We all have a choice. The Libertarian Party is running a candidate, Chase Oliver, and we wanted to lean in a little bit and get a sense of his vision for the country, why he's in this race, and what government would look like if he were to win. And Chase joins us on the line, and welcome to the program.
And thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking with you and to your listeners.
Well, fantastic. Well, let's get into the kind of the genesis of all of this for you. What was it that was the trigger point to say, you know what, I've got to stand up, speak out, and provide that choice?
Well, I wanted to run for president because I am sick and tired of seeing voters feeling like they're dissatisfied with the two top choices that they have. And as a millennial, somebody who's under the age of 40, I think it's really important for our generation really to rise up and kind of speak out because much of the same leadership that's in charge of Washington, D.C. today are people who were in charge of Washington, D.C. 20 years ago when I was in high school. And I think it's really important for our generation and certainly for Gen Z to have their voices be heard and really to speak out in favor of new solutions and not being stuck in this either or Coke or Pepsi kind of election scenario. And so, I felt like I needed to get out there and speak for my generation and speak for the ideas of liberty. And I've been blessed to do that so far.
Fantastic. And I know one of those big issues and defining principles for you does deal around the size and cost of government and what government is and isn't doing. Give us a breakdown in terms of how you would go about, obviously, the debt, which is going to be all kinds of issues, including national security. Give us your take.
Well, I think the first step that we need to address the economy is actually balancing our budget, getting ourselves to where our government is spending less than it is taking in each year. It's a goal that some people might say sounds radical, but we actually had balanced budgets the last 2 years of the Clinton administration. It just requires us to cut a lot of the excess and the fat off of government, and really much of what government does today could be better facilitated either being done by a state or a local government, or in many cases just being out of the realm of government altogether and being left to the private market to handle these kinds of things. And so my first policy, if I was elected president, would be to tell the Congress that if you don't submit to me a balanced budget, I will submit back to you a vetoed budget.
I love the sound of that because we keep saying on this show that the problem in terms of the spending is not conflict, it's collusion. And that's how that all happens. And so looking at it, and I want you to unpack for us a little bit because you referenced two important things there, I think, that everyone should be thinking about. And that is, one, the federalism component, what can be done at the state level, and then also what can be done in the private sector and be done better. Unpack that for us.
Well, at the end of the day, libertarians believe in the most local government possible, which in most cases is actually your own self-governance, governing your own behavior, what you do, so long as you're not harming people with force, fraud, coercion, theft, or violence, things like this. You should really be left to your own devices to govern yourself. But when you look at the Constitution, there's a clear delineation for what is the federal government, the responsibility of the federal government, and all things should be left back to the states, local governments, or to the people, as the Constitution prescribes. And so much of what we do, so much of the reason we have these deficits is because the federal government routinely does so many things outside of the auspices of what the Constitution really should be allowing them to. And this is something we should be sounding the alarm. Like I said, I'm a younger candidate. We don't need to keep kicking the can down the road. And that's what we have when we have 70 and 80-year-olds running. They're looking at the next 2 years, the next 4 years. I'm 40. I'm looking at the next 40 years. And I want to make sure that we're putting our economy back on track and the long view. And that involves putting the government back in its place and getting it cut down to size.
Absolutely. It's such an important part of that process, especially for the younger voters, because you are going to be the ones that carry this for the long haul, and it will impact those younger voters and their children in significant ways. Give us a sense of some of the other issues or areas that are part of your platform that people might not be aware of, that might be a little under the radar.
Yeah, I think some of the other areas that are really like, the voters are looking for solutions for things like the immigration crisis at our southern border. My policy is to create a 21st century Ellis Island so we can quickly process workers who want to come here and allow them to work, and then also focus our law enforcement on the people who aren't coming here to work, who are coming here to exploit people through human trafficking or other such things. I think another big issue is clearly criminal justice reform, as we've seen with the shooting of Stanya Massey that has just recently happened. People do want to see more accountability from their law enforcement. It doesn't mean you have to hate police, but it does mean that you want to, see some level of accountability when things like that happen. And certainly what we see overseas going on in the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine, people want to see, policy coming forward there. And our policy in the Libertarian Party is to disengage ourselves militarily and to re-engage ourselves diplomatically with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think that diplomatic component is such an important balance to that. Give us a little perception. Again, we hear a lot from the two major candidates and the two major parties that, voting for it's an either or, it's a binary choice. Anything else is spoiler or throwing away your vote, which we always pointed out on this show is the biggest myth, fallacy, and lie that leaders in government often give us is that, yeah, you can vote for anyone else, but if you don't vote for me, you'll lose power, you'll lose influence. Make the case for us as to why your choice, casting a vote for you, is the best way for someone to exercise that most important right.
Well, I'll first say I argue that I can't spoil something that's already completely spoiled rotten, and that's the two-party system, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you just look at approval ratings, Congress has an approval rating of under 20%, but a re-election rate of over 90%. That is signifying a broken system. And the best way to signify that you want to change that system is to vote outside of it. Because when you give the Democrats or Republicans your vote, you're tacitly signing off on this binary two-party choice that we've been given, this hyperpolarization, this hyperpartisanship, this either you're with us or against us mentality. When you vote outside of that, it tells people that you want to see more representation on your ballot. You want to see better ways to vote, things like ranked choice voting. And the only way to get those things, I'm a libertarian who's running for president. I can't give that to you. But the people who are in your state house, they certainly can, but you have to signify that you want more choices and more voices on your ballot. And the only way to do that is to not give your vote away to a broken two-party system that is continuing to give you less and less quality of candidates, more and more debts and deficits, more and more war around the world, and more hyper-partisanship in our politics. That's poison to this country, and we need to fix it. And that involves us voting outside the two-party system. I hope voters are brave enough to dare to vote differently.
Yeah, it is a we the people question, to be sure. And Chase Oliver, American political activist, nominee for the Libertarian Party for president here in 2024. Chase, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back as we roll into the fall. I think this is a crucial part of the question. You're raising all the critical questions we have to get to, and there's only one way to get to the answers, and that's to keep asking these kinds of questions. Chase, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck on the trail.
Hey, thank you so much. Peace, love, and liberty to you and your audience.
All right, again, that's Chase Oliver, a Libertarian candidate for President of the United States, joining us. And that was my conversation with him from yesterday. And I just thought there were so many interesting components that he brought out as he made the case that, look, the two-party system is broken. I loved his line that if anyone's saying he's a spoiler, it's impossible to spoil something that's already spoiled. And the two-party system is clearly broken. It's delivering us not the candidates that we want to choose from. It's delivering us debt and deficit spending and a whole lot of angst and frustration and division in the country. And so if that's the case, then you should do it different. One of the other things that Chase pointed out that I think is so critical, he talked about looking forward and how important that is. You know, there's a natural tendency that the older we get, the more we start to look back at what was. And there are a few leaders I've experienced who the older they got, the more they focused on the future, almost obsessed on the future. But that's hard to do for a politician or an elected official if they can only see to their next election cycle, whether that's 2 years out or 4 years out or 6 years out. Even 6 years out for a United States senator is not that far. The leaders in business, the leaders on the global scale that really make transformational differences are those who are always looking 40 years out. It is a very much something in a lot of Asian cultures that if you really want to do something, don't look a year out, don't look 5 years or 10 years out, look 40 years out and start to build for that. So we often hear politicians say, oh, this election is for the next generation. I'm doing this for my grandkids. You got to look farther than that. I love the fact that Chase Oliver said, hey, I'm going to be around for at least 40 more years. So, yeah, I'm looking 40 years out. Because it's going to take that kind of building and that kind of vision and that kind of discipline to ensure that we have the same kind of freedom and the same kind of prosperity and upward mobility that we've had in this country. Now, whether you agree with all of Chase Oliver's beliefs and platform as the Libertarian candidate for president or not, the conversation and the questions that he's raising, I'll tell you, I would love to see him on a debate stage with Vice President Harris and former President Trump. That would be fascinating because he would completely change that conversation. Why? Because he's asking curious questions about things that matter. Debt and deficit spending, the role of America in the world, not just militarily, but diplomatically. He's also asking these important questions around self-governance. I thought it was also really important that he framed it not just as federalism, you know, getting power away from Washington, D.C. and back to the states. But he said, really, the ultimate in governance is self-governance, which comes back to really radical ideas like self-reliance and integrity and community. Those are conversations we have to get to. And I think having someone in a presidential race and on a debate stage talking about those issues would lead us to a far better conversation than what we're being served up presently. All right, we'll go ahead and step aside for one last break. We'll come back with some final thoughts here on Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. There's something about us guys. We just somehow think that we are the masters of the grill. We all think that we are going to create the perfect steak for everybody in the family. And the fact is, I don't know about you, but I generally fall short. Why not just go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse for the very best steak you have ever had? And it will be perfect for every single person in the family. You don't need to worry about, well, let's see, that one's very rare. Mine is medium. Hers is going to be well done. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse can take care of it. Plus, it's too hot to be out there grilling yourself. Let Ruth's Chris do it. Those side dishes, the entrees are incredible. The service amazing. There's no cleanup to worry about. All you have to do is make your reservation at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. There's one in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City. July's the perfect time to go to 275 Southwest Temple. And of course, there's Hotel Park City, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Join KSL this Friday from 3 to 5 at the Layton NPS store at 1150 North Main Street in Layton, npsstore.com.
Did you know 96% of Americans lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income? And it's because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. Don't lose $111,000 in Social Security income. that's rightfully yours. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits on Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL. News Radio 102.7.
We're in St. George, and Jenny found a home online that she really loved.
And then we went through it with our realtor. He started pointing out things that were going to just lead us to a money pit.
We would have been in this house $50,000 or more in repairs.
With the help of our realtor, we were able to find a brand new home for $100,000 less than what we would have been paying for one that was 12 years older. We thought we were going to save money not using a realtor, but in the end, our realtor actually saved us over $150,000.
Let an experienced realtor guide you. Go to myrealtorstory.com.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Business owners, get schooled on the ABCs of asphalt and concrete before fall. Visit GoPaveUtah.com.
Utah delivers more.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the things I love about radio is that we are all hearing it at the same time. One of the differences between that and just scrolling on your phone is that I don't know when that story was posted. Maybe an hour ago, maybe 3 days ago.
To your point about who wrote it, where did it come from, and is it dated information, our hope every day is that we can provide a more broad spectrum of information on a single topic that you can then take and make decisions on your own.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Gear up for the hunting season with the Shields Hunting Sale event starting now through August 4th. Now's the time to save up to 40% on your favorite archery gear, camo from First Light, optics from Vortex and Leupold, and so much more. Visit Shields in-store and talk with an expert to get everything you need to tag out this season. Or shop our full selection online at shields.com. Get prepared and save now through August 4th at Shields or shields.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, Unified Police are hoping you can help them track down whoever caused over $60,000 in damage to a Latter-day Saints meeting house in Magna. Second, a legal expert is reacting to Colby Jenkins' petition to the Utah Supreme Court over late mail-in ballots in his race with Congresswoman Celeste Malloy, calling that argument a long shot. And third, it'll be at least Saturday before we get a break from wildfire smoke affecting our air quality. Right now, it's hazy, 90 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson, and as we round out the program today, just a reminder, if you missed any of the segments, we had some extraordinary voices joining us from around the country today talking about a wide range of issues. And all you have to do is just go to kslpodcast.com, click on Inside Sources, and they're all right there. And we serve them up to you in individual bites based on the topic and the segment of the show. And so it's a super easy way. If you just got an extra 10 minutes here or there, you can just grab one of those to do a quick listen. Or when you're out working in the yard or doing a little exercise, a great way to rock along and stay up to speed in terms of some of these crucial conversations. And I find myself going back, and while I do not enjoy listening to the sound of my own voice, I love listening to the sound of our guest's voice, mostly because they're brilliant. They are great thinkers. They are great writers. They are experts from across the political spectrum and across the country and around the world. And we had some really extraordinary ones today. Elliot Abrams joined us today from the Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, talking about what is happening in the Middle East and all the ramifications of that and all of the details that go into what is going on specifically with Iran. And I think that's part of the equation we have to keep our eye on because I think of all the players in the region, of course, Iran funds all the players, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah. And so they're going to be the ones to see how things actually play out with this ratcheting up of some of the incidents there in the Middle East. And the question will be, does Iran feel like they have a moment where they can do something a little more bold, wondering whether or not President Biden and the Biden administration will act swiftly and aggressively? Will it be one that's influenced by the vice president, who is now the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party? And clearly things will be different if she were to win in November. Are they also trying to do something before a former President Trump gets back in office, if he were to win in November, and a little more tough on Iran strategy? And so all of those things are going to continue to play out, and that's why we have people like Elliot Abrams come on the show to help us break it down and to look for the right things, to watch for the right things as these play out. And the reason I mention that is because this is why we do this, because so often what you're going to be served up in your social media feed and other places are headlines, and headlines that are often maybe a little clickbaity, maybe a little misleading, maybe a little provocative or inflammatory. But if you know what you're watching for, if you've gained that understanding and that insight, then you don't have to react with anger and fear and frustration and all those other negative base emotions. You can take in the information. You can assess it. We had the best in the business, the original fact checker for the Washington Post, Glenn Kessler, joined us today as well. Why? So that we can know what to watch for as political ad season really ratchets up moving into the fall. So that you don't have to be misled with misinformation, disinformation, not just from politicians, not just from campaigns, not just from super PACs, but even from foreign governments. Who are very interested in stirring things up and creating chaos and confusion here in the United States. So to make sure that you're not part of that chaos and confusion, that you have clarity and certainty, we have people like Glenn Kessler come on the show so that he can give us the insight of watch for this, listen for this. If you hear this, you might want to double check the source. You might want to dig a little deeper. You might want to go upstream and see if anyone else is doing that kind of research or polling or providing that kind of perspective. Or is it just clickbait? Or is it just someone trying to persuade you or manipulate your emotions, either to distract and distort what's going on or to get you to contribute to their campaign? All of those things are part of it. We talked to Shoshana Weissman from Washington, D.C. today, from our friends at R Street Institute. We talked about the bill that passed yesterday in the Senate. A little bit of a surprise. No one was really expecting this bill to be brought up before they recessed for their summer break and in-state work period. But talking about the Internet Safety Bill and how there are some good things in there, some crucial conversations to be had, and there's a whole lot in there that could cause some problems and could have some unintended consequences, especially as it relates to identity theft of our children. And so you have to get to that kind of conversation. So you can listen to all of those again on our podcast. Just go to kslpodcast.com. And we also had some fabulous conversations today. Daniel Silliman joined us from Christianity today. Ryan Burge joined us from Illinois. and some interesting faith perspective in terms of faith in the public square. And what happens if that disappears? Our friend Ryan Burge actually had to close down a church. That he was the pastor, and they got down under 10 members. And this was a church that was started in 1860. So what do you do with a church? What do you do with the baptismal records of a Baptist church from 1860? And what does that mean in terms of our interconnectedness and that muscle of civil society that I think really drives the nation, and as he pointed out, is that invisible safety net that everybody needs. Well, that wraps it up for us today here on Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Thanks for joining us. As always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something today that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shaleo, sitting in today for a vacationing Jeff Kaplan. Smoky sunshine in downtown Salt Lake City, 91 degrees. KSL's top story. We are hours away from the Utah Supreme Court releasing an opinion on Utah's abortion ban. It was set to go into effect with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but has been on hold. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe is live with the rundown. Amy?
Maria, the law passed in 2020 bans nearly all abortions except in certain circumstances. That includes cases of rape or incest, if the mother's health is at risk, or if two doctors agree the fetus has a lethal birth defect. Planned Parenthood of Utah sued the state over the law after Roe v. Wade was struck down. And then a judge put it on hold, which meant that abortions up to 18 weeks have all been legal while the case played out. So now the Supreme Court's decision tomorrow could mean the ban would go into effect if they decide it's constitutional. Reporting live, Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
Utah should take a closer look at elections law after a candidate asked the state Supreme Court to step in to allow ballots that came in too late for the postmark deadline. That's according to KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas.
Notwithstanding what happened here, what the Supreme Court does, the legislature needs to address this.
The recount in the race between Congresswoman Celeste Malloy and Colby Jenkins continues today. Jenkins says the postmark deadline rules kept more than 1,100 ballots from being counted because of postal delays. Representative Celeste Malloy is introducing a bipartisan bill that would create a grant program to fund search and rescue operations on